at the trigonometric rule of sine ratio. So sine theta is equal to the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse, meaning whatever the angle is, if you should put sine of that angle on your calculator, it will be equal to the same value as if you had taken the length of the opposite side and divided it by the length of the hypotenuse. Now, in using the formula now, we can try to figure out the missing sides of different shapes. So in these cases, we'll just put it into workings. So sine theta is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. Now the opposite side is the side that is away from the angle. Or if you should draw an arrow in the triangle, it will be the one that is away from it. That is always the opposite side of a right angle triangle. Now, in our situation, let's say we are going to be finding x, which is the opposite side. You'll simply just rewrite your formula, or if you know it out of your head, you can start substituting the values. So since it's here, I'll just start substituting the values. So it's sine, theta means the angle. So the angle in our case is 39, is equal to the opposite side, which is x, divided by the hypotenuse. And the hypotenuse is the longest side of the triangle, or the side that is opposite to your right angle. Or generally, the right angle is drawn or represented by a square, so it's the one that is opposite from it. So in our case, that's 14 meters. Now, once you are trying to find a missing value, you can use the properties or the rules of ratio. So in ratio, you normally have something here, and you will cross multiply and find the values. Or you can use the principles of solving equations, which is the same thing, which is that you just try to find the missing value or the unknown value. So in our case, let's use the ratio here since I have placed the 1 here. You cross multiply. So it would have been the 1 times the x and sine 39 times 14. So it's sine 39 multiplied by 14 must be equivalent to or equal to 1 times x. And 1 times x is 1x or just x. Now, when you reach here, you just simply need to put on the values on your calculator. And please ensure you check to see that your calculator is in degrees. And you generally can tell if it's in degrees because at the top you'll see a little d there, and that represents degrees. If you don't see a d and you're seeing r, it means your calculator is in radians. And you'll need someone to help you to take it out of radians and put it in degrees. So sine 39 multiplied by 14, and that will be equal to 8.8. So that's 8.8 meters is equal to x. And x in our case, that's the opposite side. So the opposite side is equal to 8.8 meters, while the hypotenuse is 14. And just to keynote, since the hypotenuse is the longest side, if you should work out something and you recognize that the final answer for the opposite side is bigger than your hypotenuse, it means you would have done something incorrect. So you need to just go back and check over your working out. So that's what you would do if you need your opposite side. Now, to do this operation to get your hypotenuse, it's similar, but it's a little bit different. Now, if you are going to find the hypotenuse, like in this case, so it would be filling in them just the same. So it's sine theta, which is the sine of the angle. Our angle is 45, so it's sine 45 must be equal to, it's still equal to your opposite side. So your opposite side is 16 meters over your hypotenuse, which is x. So please never change or alternate them to put the value that you know underneath at all times. No. It is based on the formula. It will always be the opposite divided by your hypotenuse. Now we are going to be doing the same thing right here to find the value of x. Now if you want the value of x, and you should say cross multiply, or you're using the rule of ratio, you will recognize that it's 16 multiplied by 1 and sine 45 multiplied by x must be equal to 16 times 1, that's still 16 meters. Now, here, you recognize that your variable is not by itself, and so you'd still have to continue the operation to get your variable by itself, just like when you're solving equations, or if you're transposing formula, it's the same procedures. So you'd have to do something to get rid of this multiplying sine 45 to leave the variable by itself. And the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So you technically divide both sides by the same sine 45, or whatever the angle is, to get your variable by itself. So x will be equal to 16 meters divided by sine 45. And that's, you get this by dividing both sides by sine 45. So sine 45 divided by, on this side being divided, it will take out the sine 45s, and 16 divided by sine 45 there. Now 16 divided by sine, and you put that on your calculator, sine 45, and that is equal to 22.6 meters. And here you recognize x in this case is your hypotenuse, and you recognize the hypotenuse is 22.6, while your opposite side is 16 meters. So your hypotenuse must always be longer than your opposite side. So here's the procedure if you're finding your hypotenuse. So, and this is the procedure if you're finding your, this is the procedure if you're finding opposite, this is the procedure if you're finding hypotenuse. But what if you are told to find the missing angle, or the angle value for your equation? It's the same procedure, just simply putting in the values that you already know, and then you continue the working out. So sine theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. In our case, you don't know the angle here. So you just write back your sine theta is equal to the opposite. So the 14 should have been here. So I'll put 15 here for your opposite side, because it's always the angle away. So sine theta, so that's 15 for your opposite side, and your hypotenuse is the longest side, which is 20 meters. So opposite is away, and hypotenuse is the longest one. So when you get here now, it's a little bit different. Now, here you normally just cross multiply. However, when you're finding the angle, you do not do that. You simply need to write theta is equal to whatever this is, you'll put the inverse of it. So it's sine inverse 15 over 20. So that's it. So the opposite, since you want the angle, you have to do something to get rid of your sine. And to get rid of sine, you have to find the inverse of sine. And this is how it's generally represented. So when you're using your calculator and you need sine inverse, you look for this. So it would be the inverse of sine 15 over 20. And please note, you must put these values correct, because sine only works with decimals. Sine inverse works with decimals, not whole numbers. So ensure it's correctly placed. So sine inverse of 15 over sine 20 is equal to 48.6 and degrees. So once it's an angle, degrees. When it's a side, it's whatever unit you were given it into. So angle degrees, and others is based on the unit. And so once you want, so I'll just give you the transpose formula now. So once you are finding the angle, you just simply need to have sine inverse, the opposite, divided by your hypotenuse. At all times. If you want your hypotenuse, all you need to do is just simply always have your opposite side being divided by the sine of the angle at all points in time. And if you want your opposite side, it will always be equal to, so the opposite side will always be your hypotenuse multiplied by the sine of the angle. So as long as you can remember these transpose formulas, if you cannot manipulate the formula, this original one, to solve for it, if you are able to remember that the opposite side is always equal to the hypotenuse multiplied by sine theta, and if you want the hypotenuse, it's equal to the opposite divided by sine theta, and if you want the angle, it's a sine inverse of the opposite divided by hypotenuse, you will always be able to get the answer that you need. So I hope this video would have helped you to understand how to apply the sine ratio in order to find the missing sides or a missing angle, if that's what the question requires. So thanks for watching, and see you another time when I explain the cos ratio for trigonometry.